Okay, so let me get you caught up. This is Solemate, and he is powered by my steps in real life. For every step I take in the real world, he can take one more in-game. I keep track of this with a couple of different tools. In the real world, I use my Fitbit, and in-game, I made my own custom add-on to track his steps. It's synced to his walking cycle, so no matter how fast he's moving, it counts as though he got there using only regular steps. The main goal of this challenge is for me to be healthier and get more exercise. The secondary goal is to explore all of Azeroth and beyond on my own 2 feet. This is Steplocked. I'll put the rules on screen here, but if you want a more in-depth explanation, check the description or watch the previous video. Last time, I spent 1 day of real-life walking in Exile's Reach, spending over 15,000 steps and recruiting my loyal pal Fitbit. After 33 quests, I find myself at the doorstep of Durotar, ready to start the real challenge. This day logged will be my highest for a while, 15,937 steps. This is mostly a result of the busy workday, but I start getting into the habit of taking 10 to 20 minute walks when I have any downtime. With this many steps, I was hoping to be able to take out a huge chunk of Durotar. As I start the long walk down to the Valley of Trials, I'll tell you my plan. Durotar actually consists of 3 areas. The first is the Valley of Trials. This is the Orc starting area and offers a short 10 quests in its main storyline. The next area is the Echo Isles. This is the Troll starting area and offers 17 quests. My plan was to tackle these 2 areas before tackling Durotar main. The rest of the zone offers 33 quests in its storyline. This means that there are a total of 60 required quests for the first prerequisite for me to complete this zone. Some of the later zones have Lore Master achievements for completing all of the storylines available. However, Durotar is not one of them. So instead, Wowhead has a section of quests for the zone labeled Storyline that I will be completing. Unfortunately, at this point in the challenge, I had not yet discovered this resource, so I make some mistakes trying to figure out what does and doesn't count as a required storyline quest. These 60 quests, along with the full exploration for the achievement and taming a new pet from the zone, would give me a good perspective on how far my steps actually go in-game. As I arrive in the Valley of Trials, I have already used up 1,604 steps. That is a hefty run from Orgrimmar. That's equivalent to about 3/4 of a mile, or about 3 laps around a full running track. The Durotar questing begins, as many of you are probably aware, killing boars. This was easy for Solemate, as he could just stand still at a distance and farm them until he had completed the quest. The next one asked me to kill some Northwatch scouts. These guys weren't so friendly and clumped up like the boars, but this is when I figured out my pet has a massive attack range. I could send Fitbit over to a distant enemy and recall him so the enemy moves close enough for Solemate to attack too. This is probably well-known info for a lot of the Hunter players out there, but I wasn't aware of it until now. With the new knowledge attained, I was able to complete the quest spending only 145 steps, and I dubbed this strategy the pet pull. My first mistake happens here, and it's unfortunately the first of many. The quest list I am following at this point doesn't show Lazy Peons as a required quest, so I decide to skip it as I go hunting Scorpids. The same goes for the Cactus Apple quest. So I kill some Scorpids and then kill Sarkoth. Sarkoth here shares his model with the pet I'm hoping to tame in the zone. But I thought it would be fun to hunt for the other option instead of going for this low-hanging fruit. Dropping off the cliff back to the quest hub definitely saves some steps. I forego Lazy Peons once again to go kill vile familiars. More pet pulls and range tagging of the mobs makes this very easy. I don't loot a lot of them because realistically their loot tables aren't worth the steps. It's at this point the next quest doesn't show up. I find online that Lazy Peons is actually also a required quest to continue the storyline. I reluctantly pick it up and look for the 2 closest peons. Luckily, they fall asleep quickly so I can smack them awake. And then I take a quick dance break until they fall asleep again so I can finish the quest. Not picking up this quest when it was first available definitely cost me some steps, but I only spent about 290 to get back on track. This is child's play compared to the steps I will have to suffer later to fix my mistakes. With the next quest appearing, I grab it and head to the cave, this time ignoring the pickaxe quest. Another mistake as it turns out. And once I get to the cave, I take the long path around, expecting the target to be up on the ledge like he is in Classic. But at some point they moved him down below. It was after killing him that I realized I probably should have set my hearth to the Valley of Trials quest hub. But I just make the run back. This concludes the Valley of Trials. For now. And I leave the zone having spent 3,047 steps. That's already 2/3 of the steps I spent in Exile's Reach. And at this point, it's on to Echo Isles. I make a quick pit stop in Senjin Village for the flight path and get sidetracked by the crab quest as it's right there. I get my drops quickly, grab the fishing profession, and hit 50 quests completed. It definitely feels like I'm on a pretty good pace having finished 50 quests in less than 2 days worth of steps. As I look across the shore at the Echo Isles, the initial quest marker doesn't show up on the map. I take the risk of heading over there without proof that there's actually a quest there waiting for me. But as it turns out, weirdly, that this starting quest only shows up when you're close enough to it. That's good news for me. I head over to the troll training area and complete my first quest with 0 total steps. I use the hunter ability Disengage to jump a fence and blast through this area. Disengage is a great tool to preserve steps as I programmed my add-on to ignore step jumps over 15. This means that skills like Disengage, Mage's Blink, Rogue's Shadow Step, and more won't actually count as steps as long as they travel far enough. I thought this would add a bit of complexity to how I'd use my kit. Also, it would have some good strategy and variation in case any other classes tried out this challenge. It's during these quests that I make another mistake. The current quest list I'm following only lists one of these 3 available quests as mandatory, so I skip the other 2. I swim to the neighboring island and save some baby raptors and return to some bad news. The next quest doesn't show up. I actually start heading to the main island thinking that the next quest may be over there, but luckily I change my mind and head back to the 2 quests I had skipped. After swimming back to the neighboring islands to kill some mobs, I've wasted almost 700 steps for this mistake, which is about how many steps I'd use in real life when I do my food shopping at the store. But the next quest does unlock. The next one is a breath of fresh air. I have to catch Swiftclaw, a crazy raptor who's running around the island. So after watching his running path, I position myself in line and wait. Eventually, he comes close enough for me to snag him, and I actually get a free ride, no steps counted, all the way back to the main island. I knock out some more quests until I end up at this cave with some Naga. I have 2 objectives inside, to kill a bunch of Naga and to vandalize 8 banners. Instead of running around the cave for my objectives, I decide to just hang out on the main platform, killing the mobs there and waiting for the same 4 banners to respawn. It's a bit of a waste of time, but I am saving steps. So the next quest is a pseudo boss fight. Nothing has been much of a challenge until this point regarding combat, so I go into it a bit cocky. She 2-shots my pet and almost 3-shots me until I panic and feign death to drop aggro. After getting back up and reviving my pet, I stomp out the braziers and almost get killed again. After my second feign death of the fight, I decide it'd be better to let the NPCs finish off this quest, as a death would mean I'd have to spend a lot of steps running back to my body. The game provided me with these NPCs, so I'd be a fool not to use them and just let them win the fight for me. With those close calls out of the way, the Echo Isles is complete, with 17 quests and a total of 4,373 steps within the zone. If you thought my questing mistakes would end now, you'd be mistaken. Just like I'm mistaking this quest, forcing me to run all the way through the ravine full of Alliance NPCs twice. But before I know it, I'm on to Razor Hill. The game is kind enough to give me another ferry, on the back of a riding wolf this time. WoW definitely seems generous with these free directed ferries, and I hope the pattern continues into later zones. Razor Hill is one of the main quest hubs for Durotar, and it's very central for the zone. Because of this, I make sure to set my Hearthstone at the inn. A quick tip for you guys if you didn't know, when you set your hearth somewhere, it remembers your exact positioning. This includes the direction you're facing. So, I make sure to be as close to the door as possible and facing outward when I set my hearth. This might only save me a few dozen steps in the long run, but it is a quality of life improvement. This is the first time I actually have a choice on where to quest. So I decide to head southeast down to the keep, where the Northwatch soldiers are. Nothing much of import to say here, but I am starting to run low on steps. I decide to head straight north to the Burning Blade Cave, bypassing Razor Hill, thinking that stopping to turn the quest might use up extra steps. Once I get to the cave, I start aggroing and pet pulling enemies from a distance, but the respawn timers are extremely long. So, I bite the bullet and head inside the cave, discovering the location. I definitely would have kicked myself later if I had just camped enemies outside and missed this location, which would be required to finish the zone. Something funny happens in the cave though, where both Solemate and Fitbit can turn to demons for a brief time. For some reason, Fitbit is bigger than Solemate, and he's usually flying, but in this form, he gets to take his first ever steps. I feel proud, like a parent watching his kid take his first steps. Good job, buddy. Back in Razor Hill, I turn the quests in. Make a quick run to the beach again to find some treasure, and run out of steps climbing the hill to the watchtower. I definitely made some good progress on this day, but there was a lot more zone to go. The next day arrives and I have a whopping 14,228 steps to spend. I definitely hit the challenge hard at the beginning, getting a lot more steps in real life than I expected. A lot of it was due to work, but things like taking extra walks and picking up jump roping as a good cardio activity definitely helped me maintain my over 10,000 step a day goal. As I set off for day 2 of Durotar, I learned that spiral towers are annoying and purely a waste of steps to get to the top. But this next quest is an interesting one. I'm tasked with helping 3 different NPCs within the flooded area of the zone. This means I have to complete 5 quests before I can finish this single one. I don't think there are many quests in the game with this format, but I could be wrong. I'm going to put a step counter on screen for this one quest as I think it may be the single longest quest in steps so far. So into the flooded plains I go to save the day. The first NPC needs crocodile teeth, and I get pretty stubborn, refusing to move much as I spawn camp the beasts. But once it's done, I'm off to this next guy who wants me to scare some plainstriders. I can reach 2 of them without even leaving the NPC, but I get impatient and start walking down the river a bit, looking for more plainstriders. For my small bit of exploration, I'm rewarded. A rare mob spawns almost directly on top of me. But not just any rare mob, Deathflayer. This is the pet I'm aiming to tame for Durotar. It shares the same model as Sarkoth in the Valley of Trials, but was way rarer, so that makes it, in my opinion, cooler. I quickly dismiss my pet and get to taming. I'm lucky I found him when I did because there was a player group of about 4 people right behind me who could have easily killed him. With the taming complete, welcome to the squad, Step Off. Crossing off my first prerequisite for Durotar, taming a unique pet for the zone. With this boost in morale, I find the final plainstrider and head off to the target raptor. This quest was a little lame as it was an easy kill but made me spend almost 600 steps just running there and back. With that though, I've helped the second NPC. The third and final NPC wants me to kill quillboars. This would have been an easy standing camp situation, but the group of players I mentioned earlier were here too. With them killing mobs, I was forced to run after them to tag the mobs as well to get some credit. It made me spend more steps than I wanted, but it definitely saved me a lot of time. With the final NPC helped, I hearth back to Razor Hill to turn in the mega quest. Although it involved many parts, I think this single quest holds the step record so far. Razor Hill is done and I head north. I make a sick disengage jump over Razorwind Pass, or I attempt to, resulting in a step loss. But nevertheless, I arrive at Drenosh Blockade. This is another example of my current quest list failing me, as I accept the Skull Rock quest, but I ignore the others. It was at this point I get my first big milestone for this overall challenge. As I approach the cave and enter Skull Rock, my first exploration achievement pops to explore Durotar. That's another prerequisite done for the current zone I'm completing. More demon shenanigans occur inside the cave, which I thought was pretty funny, but once I'm done, I head to Orgrimmar for what I thought was one of the final quests of the zone. This city is pretty big. I'm counting it as a part of Durotar, but it also has its own zone step counter. I'm definitely curious to see how many steps I accrue here, since you definitely have to come back here a lot, no matter what zone you're questing in. I make sure to grab cooking on the way past in case I find some use for it later. It's also important that Solemate eats clean just like I'm trying to eat better in real life, and then I turn in a quest right in front of Ragefire Chasm. This would have been the optimal time to run the dungeon, but I don't have the 10,000 steps required to pay the fee to get into the instance. In case you missed it, my step add-on doesn't work in dungeons, so instead, I have to pay a flat fee of 10,000 steps to enter. I saw your guys' comments about the fee where some of you suggested to scale it per number of bosses, something like 2k steps per boss. I like this idea, but at the time of recording, I still have my 10,000 step fee. I'll definitely look into implementing this in the future though, so thanks for the input. Your ideas and comments are greatly appreciated. I start heading out of Orgrimmar to complete the final quest, which takes me to the Northern Barrens. This is when I decide to double check my work. I find the definitive list of storyline quests on wowhead, and I've missed quite a lot. 8 quests in Northern Durotar, 1 near Razor Hill, and the worst part of all, I had missed 2 quests in the Valley of Trials. That's right, Those dang apples and the pickaxe have come back to haunt me, but now it's time to right this wrong and stay true to the challenge with only a few quests left to complete. I grabbed the Going Down achievement in Orgrimmar, which is super easy with a Pandaren who takes half damage from falling, and I get to work. I pick up the first quest, which is a short walk to the beach, followed by 3 of the most step-efficient quests in the game so far. I have to kill these 3 NPCs, which I can do with pet pulls from standing right next to the quest giver. I do fumble the bag and take 1 step away from him though, so I need to take a second step back to turn them in. That's 3 more quests though, with less than 1 step each on average. Also, I hit level 20, but that's not super important. The next quest here screwed me. You talk to this shaman and he tells you a story by turning you into a wolf. You run over to some Kodo and watch a cutscene. That's it. Except my cutscene just fails to happen, and it kicks me back to the start, forcing me to do it again. This bug alone cost me 340 precious steps. Hopefully, the game doesn't decide to screw me too much like that going forward. After that, I go and kill some elementals, which is easy, followed by an epic fence skip, which may or may not have saved steps. Then, this guy sends me back into the flooded ravine to fish up some dead Kodo. I had been here earlier to loot a drowned goblin, so I definitely could have saved a lot of steps by taking these quests together. No matter though, we move. Harpies and sacks are the next objective while heading south. I'm not sure how these are important to the storyline, but from here on out, we trust the holy text. I wave to my fellow walking hunter and hearth down to Razor Hill. I'm definitely getting low on steps at this point, under 1500 to go for the day. It turns out this next quest is from a downed NPC, and I missed it the first time entirely. Now I have less than 1000 steps, and I still need to do the 2 final quests in the Valley of Trials. I head back to Razor Hill to turn in this quest, and take my first flight path of the account down to Senjin. Just as a reminder, I am allowed to take flight paths and they don't consume steps. As I land in the village and start heading over to the Valley of Trials, the run is brutal. I'm forced to watch these needless steps tick down, but once I get there, I'm able to pick up the 2 final quests of the zone and perform another epic fence skip. But it's not enough. Solemate runs out of steps, just out of reach of another cactus apple. As frustrating as it was, the final quests would have to wait. It's day 3 of Durotar now, and I deposit 11,469 steps from real life into Solemate's account. It's a lot of steps, but my goal of the day is to complete Ragefire Chasm, so I'll need to wrap things up down here and get back to Orgrimmar with over 10,000 steps for the dungeon fee. When I get back to the cave for the pickaxe quest, I notice that when I'm inside the cave, it counts the zone as Durotar instead of the Valley of Trials. I just found this interesting. But that doesn't matter because with the pickaxe in hand and a couple more prickly apples, I'm done questing in Durotar. I hearth to Razor Hill, having raised the Valley of Trials' final step total from around 3,000 to 4,055. I just noticed I hit 100 quests while editing. That means right now, my average steps per quest is 464.5. Once I get to Orgrimmar, I only have 628 steps to make it to the Ragefire Chasm entrance if I want to do it today. I do a sick disengage jump onto a lower level and find an entrance to the drag that I swear I've never seen before. After a quick epic fence block, I make it to the entrance of the dungeon with 256 steps to spare. Turns out I was worrying for nothing. I pay the 10,000 step fee and enter Ragefire Chasm. My initial thought was that this content would be easy enough to solo. My damage on the first few mobs seems fine, but once they start hitting me, it's a totally different story. As it turns out, questing in Durotar doesn't reward any good gear. I'm sitting at a measly 24 gear score after finding a pretty sweet random gear drop off of one of the instance mobs. My best gear is still gear I got from Exile's Reach, which is crazy. This is where my rule comes in to not need to solo group content. Since steps don't count in the dungeons, they aren't really that important to the challenge. I just want to complete them for the vibes, and to get an achievement for each one. So, with the group finder locked until level 50 for some reason, I recruit a couple of friends on low level characters, and we take on Ragefire Chasm. After a couple of gear upgrades and some boss stomping, I get the achievement. This crosses off the 3rd prerequisite for my zone challenge. Heading back into the open world, there is only one more thing to do. The actual final quest of Durotar's storyline is to head west and cross the bridge into the next zone. I Hearthstone to Razor Hill for the final time, and start my final run. Or so I thought. I run out of steps with wet feet, able to see the bridge into the Barrens. Not the most ideal time to stop for the day, but it is what it is. I took a couple of days off of playing before I jumped back in and had 2 days worth of steps to log for Solemate. On day 4 of Durotar, with the end of the first main WoW zone in sight, I run. Actually bypassing the bridge as it's a few steps out of the way, so I swim. But once I had crossed the zone border, I had done it. All of Durotar on my own 2 feet. Every storyline quest, every area explored, every dungeon complete, and a new pet for the collection. I have plenty of steps left on the account for the day, but those are going to have to wait for the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed my journey through Durotar. It definitely wasn't optimal by any means, but I stuck to it. After 4 real days of walking, I had taken enough steps in real life to actually explore and quest through Durotar. With Exile's Reach and now Durotar under my loosening belt, it was now time to start a new endeavor. The Northern Barrens. But that's going to have to wait until next time. So until then, go out and get some steps, and I'll see you later. Also, an additional note for anyone who's interested in the add-on being public, I'm working on that right now, however, it's very janky and it's requiring me to change the actual code to get it in sync with my steps in every zone. So once I have a few more things figured out, I'll definitely release it to you guys so you can see just how many steps your hero's taking in game. Alright, thanks for the support guys, I'll see you next time.